In case you guys don't know me, I am Ivy Marie Lim, Peak Performance and Relationship Coach, and I am super excited to have Sabin Karma. And if you don't already know him, or if you're having deja vu, he is part of the Karma Quad, or what was part of the initial Karma Quad. Well, you're still a quad. I mean, that's never going to change.
Still a quad, you're right, till I die.
So he is one of 24 sets of identical quadruplets on the planet. The odds of this happening is 1 in 600 million people. And I am the one of 7 billion people who is delighted to have him in my presence right now. He is a life and leadership coach and energy healer. And I wanted to speak to him for some time now. But I particularly want to go down this aisle because as a woman's coach and women's empowerment coach, and I currently have a program out called the Magnetic Love Method. And the number two questions that I get often, Sabin, are number one, where are all the good men at?
Great
Number
question.
two, men need to do this work too. So I'll explain to women about the program and the transformation and the self-healing and the self-love and the cultivation of your intuition and understanding and taking responsibility for all the everything going on in your life, and then turning around and manifesting and transforming that. And then I get, that sounds amazing, but where are all the good men at? And men need to do this work too. So as a coach, and now that there's 4 of you, and yes, ladies, they're all single. 4 of this fine gentlemen here are single. But so tell me, let's go there. Let's get juicy here.
Yeah. So I guess.
How are you finding navigating the world of singledom? What is the male's perspective?
Great question. So I'll give you where I was at a year ago, and then we'll work our way up to today. So before COVID, in some ways, I was very authentic and different than a lot of the not good men out there, I guess I'll use your words. And in some ways, I was just like those men. So I was dating, 4 women at once, which is probably not the smartest thing. I look back and realize.
And did they know about each other?
Yes, I was more honest this time than I was a couple of years ago. So a couple of years ago, I was very much in the, let's just not let them find out about each other. Let's not even have Instagram posts with other people. The problem is that really, not only are you lying to them, you're lying to yourself, and that really eats away at you. But
I love that.
Yeah, and that fundamentally, like, that's the thing I really had to fix in myself. I was lying to myself for so long, and I see men lying to themselves. And when you lie to yourselves, because the inner and the outer world reflect, you naturally lie to others. So if you're not honest with yourself, there's no way you can be honest with others. And that's when you find a lot of men in relationships doing what they're doing and just not being honest. Hence, there's no good men out there. But COVID happened, and I watched my whole world fall apart. So all those women fell out of my life one by one. And I look back and I say, thank God that happened. I'm really able to look back and say thank you, because it forced me to take a deep look within. Something that I don't think. Yeah.
Sorry, I do want to stay on that, but what was that point where that caused you to look inward? I mean, because you've been on this healing path for some time.
Yes.
So what was at that point? And even still, you were honest with all the 4 women. So that's True. Even a big kudos, right? But yeah, where was that point in your self-awareness journey that finally, besides, COVID is obviously a big pivot for a lot of people. But was it going on before then?
Yeah, so there's 2 main stories, and I'll keep them short because they're definitely stories. But I really think that suffering is the catalyst for transformation. And I'm actually going to be writing a book on that this year. If you let it be, right? Suffering has this capacity to really transform you into a way better person. So you can look back and say, wow, that happened for a reason, but it also can absolutely destroy and cripple other people. And I'm obsessed with what makes that difference. And it ties to me personally because my freshman year, I was dating a bunch of girls. I was partying 6 nights a week in college, which was just a few years ago. and something happened to me, and this was really big for me because of, you know, how it made me feel. I did not drop for, I was like a frat star and stuff, but I ended up getting dropped from 2 different fraternities. Like they kicked me out because they didn't like the person that I was, because I was stepping into my full power. And I don't think fraternities like that too much. Not all fraternities, but some. And I found myself feeling more alone and isolated, like no one cared about me than I've ever felt in my life. And it was so painful. I remember being in tears, calling my mom after the 3 pledge masters said I was bonged from the fraternity. I just, you know, like a, you know, man does, I didn't show my feelings to them. And like I've changed a lot to this now, but I remember crying right when I was with myself, called my mom, and it was a really hard few months for me. But I think there's something so beautiful about suffering in that it puts you in, if you let it, it gives you the, I had the quiet and the stillness time to finally reflect on my life and see all the ways that I was lying to myself, I was lying to others, where I was not living up to where I needed to be. And so that's when I first happened to find meditation, because once you're seeking something new, I knew something had to change from that suffering. And I'm still trying to find out why that happens for me and not everyone else. That's when the meditation came in. That's when I started reading for the first time. And that's when I made a decision that I'm going to transfer to the University of Notre Dame, which I am at now, in a leave of absence right now. So that was the first catalyst. But then, you know, I start, you know, transforming, but also have some of my old patterns. And then COVID offered a very similar opportunity. For the first time in my life in COVID, I literally thought the word depression in my mind. I remember one of my brothers, our YouTube channel almost fell apart last April. And one of my brothers didn't want to do the YouTube channel anymore because our relationships were, and tension was at an all-time high. And I remember they just left and said, I'm done. And I just remember they were stepping on the floor right here where we shoot our videos. And I felt like they were stepping on my heart. And I felt like all my dreams were falling apart and all the girls are falling out of my life. Everything was changing, but it caused a lot of suffering because we grab onto the old and we want to hold on to what's familiar. But as soon as I started letting that process allow me to change again and get that stillness, that's when I found Mind Valley. That's when I happened to hear Vishen, the CEO, speaking, and he captivated me. That's when I joined Mind Valley. That's when I met Lena. That's when I met all these incredible people. That's what led me to the Inside Out Institute, where I'm doing the coaching now. So it's just really, for me, allowing the suffering to transform you rather than destroy you. And the first step to that is really having that quiet time and literally looking at, you know, what I think Jay Shetty put it best. He said, when you're suffering, you want to ask 3 questions, because he says pain plus progress, pain plus reflection equals progress. You take out the reflection, you just have pain. He says, what is the situation trying to gift me? How can I never forget that gift? And how can I give that gift to others? And so those are 3 great questions to really reflect in that stillness time, so you can come out of that suffering and really pivot in the direction that it's asking you to. So that's kind of what I did.
Like, that's phenomenal, amazing, and I'm glad, because we wouldn't be speaking otherwise had you not gone through that. And so let's talk about this, the mask of masculinity. Why? I mean, we know on the superficial level that, and I get that from the women, like, men need to do this work too, Ivy. Like, how do we get that? How do we get to that point where men they feel more safe to truly, you know, reach out to people? And it's a bit of a epidemic, right? Like, men are holding back their feelings, and they're potentially not expressing themselves, or they're playing out old rules and old habits and old ways of so-called masculine being, and they're probably, in all likelihood, they're only hurting themselves from having a meaningful relationship.
Totally.
So give us some hope here.
Yeah. So for me, I was the worst at this. I was Mr. Growing Up, can't show my feelings, always got to act like I'm crushing it, that I'm alpha in front of other guys. That one of the reasons I was dating all those girls is because I wanted other guys' approval. And so I think what we need to do, and to give some guys some credit, because I can empathize with them, our society has really ingrained the wrong definition of what it means to be masculine. The alpha guy who acts like he has everything figured out, who's super fit and muscular and has this hard exterior. And we really need to redefine men and masculinity as, you know, vulnerability is so powerful, but men see it as such weakness. there's such a strength in showing your softness that men have never been able to explore because it's been ingrained in them from a young age that that's not the way boys act. Boys will be boys, like get over yourself, you can't cry, all this stuff. I remember just a couple of summers ago, a kid, I was doing service with these 10, 12-year-old boys, and they were like, I was 22 at the time, and they were like, I told them I still cry like on a daily basis, and they were shocked. They're like, I didn't know boys your age still cried. See, that's a problem. As long as we have those belief systems, it's not going to change because we're taught that that's the way we have to be. Everybody fundamentally wants love and approval. And we're literally being ingrained as a culture that men have to act the way they're acting now in order to get that. And so they continually fall into that trap, and then they don't receive that. So they think they have to do more of that in order to get it. And it's a really bad cycle. And one of my missions on this planet is to really wake men up from that to what it really means to be masculine and really authentic. And if you want to attract a meaningful relationship, everything comes down to communication. And if you can't communicate with yourself because you don't know yourself and you don't love yourself, because you've been performing your whole life up to some standard that's just so far away from you, you're never going to have a meaningful relationship.
So, do you have any advice for women that they're in a relationship and the guy is carrying the mask of masculinity, but you see the hint, you see that he's trying? For me, it was, I met my husband when he was in a broken place. We're both divorcees, and he had already went to the library and was starting to read all the personal development books, but unfortunately didn't save his marriage, which was good for me. But I ended up getting that better version of him or whatever. But he was in essence, he was, don't get me wrong, he was a good father, but yeah, who knows what happened? We don't really know, right?
Yeah.
But either way, we're like, how do you tell a guy that you're into or whatever, like, you know what, you should check this out, do this work, like, come on. How do you
Yeah.
give that nudge without saying, there's something wrong with you?
Yeah, great question. It really starts inside of you. I figured out and learned only recently with me and my brothers that the only way to truly inspire people and get them to change is never to tell them to change, but they will be inspired by your own transformation. And if they're not, then that's on them. You're going to start to grow apart. But as you begin to change, one of two things happen. They're either going to see it, love it, and want to change with you, or you're going to grow apart, and you have to make the decision as what to do from there. So I would say focus on you and really specifically your own self-love practices. There's a point in my energy healing, there's this great thing they call them broadcast messages. And so when you're like, why every time I do this, I'm triggering my partner? It's, well, when you can only focus on you and what you can control, there's actually energies that you're sending off that might be triggering his own energies. You can actually heal that. So you can literally not only heal yourself, but the energies you're giving off to that person. That's the furthest extent that you can go in trying to control him and have a better relationship. And you just, from that state of clarity, from that state of wholeness and healing, then you'll have the clarity to make the right decision as to, he'll either watch you and want to be more like you and transform and be inspired by you and have awe and reverence for you. That's the ideal in a relationship, in my opinion. Mutual awe and reverence for each other. You love the ways that you are different, and you want to be more like each other because you look up to each other. And as you transform, you give the opportunity for your partner to do that, and then they can ultimately step into what you're doing to an extent in their own way. But it doesn't always happen, and so you have a decision from there, from that place of clarity, to basically break up in love if they're not going to do that, and make that decision. It's the best for both of you because you're not aligning up anymore, or they're going to come with you and it's going to be more beautiful.
I love that, because that's exactly what that's my tagline: radiate and amplify your best self so you attract the love you want. However, there comes a point where sometimes it also repels certain people, and you have to trust that repelling is in your highest good.
Yes.
And even still, because you're still radiating, because you're still magnetic, the right one will come in. But you have to trust that process, because what happens to a lot of women is that they do the work, they see a little bit working, and then they give up, and then they shrink down, they contract again.
Yeah.
And then the work comes back to open up their hearts again, open up their magnetic energy again. But it's getting through
That's
that
beautiful.
process.
Well, it's really
Right?
difficult because when you become more authentic and more a better version of yourself, it doesn't mean everyone's going to like you now, or even your partner. We have to get over that, or we're never going to stick to it in the long run. It's polarizing. It's going to really repel the people that aren't meant for you, and it's really stronger than you can even imagine, draw people to you. And I've seen that in my own life. But it all starts from the inside out. That's seriously, you can only control yourself. It's such a waste of time and energy to try and control things that cannot be controlled. And people do not just do this with relationships. I would say start with something smaller. Start with the weather. You know how many people complain about the weather, even though it's entirely outside of their control? You stop trying to control that. Before you know it, you'll stop trying to control your partner. You'll just focus on yourself. The polarization process will happen, and you'll have more
And the
unconditional love than
magnetic
no.
version,
Exactly.
the magnetic side happens.
The
Right?
polarization, the repel and the magnetic. It's magnetic to repel people. You're at a certain magnetic frequency. You know it's in your highest good, like you said. You don't want those people, so that's part of the magnetism, is drawing those lower energies, those lower frequencies away from you.
Yes, I love it. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy we spoke about this. We're so aligned. And so where can people find you then, Sabin? And okay, so before you go, 1 second. What is it that you're looking for in a woman?
Oh, I can go
And
on for
why
a long
is
time.
it? Sorry?
No, I can go on for a long time about that.
Okay, so let's do the condensed
I'll keep it
IG
brief.
version.
So ever since the last girl I dated was early June, and everything changed for me when she was the last one to fall out of my life. And for a long time, I thought I always had to be dating someone to feel worthy. I don't see myself with a serious partner right now just because of where I'm at. I know when the time comes, there will be such a magnetic pull and an energy alignment to me that I'm not going to have to find this person. But I'm really looking and going to be looking for somebody who's just so driven. They have a heart of gold. They want to do huge things in this world, but they also love intimate moments. They're so authentic. They're vulnerable. They're passionate. I need someone who has a passion and fire and wants to be a student of life forever, who's deeply spiritual, who's all about, connection and finding the depths of unconditional love. I mean, I can go on, but I'm really trying to picture, that's some of the main qualities that I'm looking for. And then again, if everyone listens, what's the next question I'm asking myself? How can I become those things? Not where can I go find those things? How can I become those things? Because then I'm that magnetic frequency, and that starts to come to me. And that's how you attract the things you want in your life, whether it's a relationship or any goal you want. You got to become that frequency. That's how you manifest it.
So firstly, though, you do have the clarity that right now you're choosing, and you're powerfully choosing, to remain single for the most part.
Yes,
Okay,
and not looking.
You probably just broke like a whole bunch of hearts, but
to tell them to get on the waiting list, I'll get there.
In the meantime, they will work on themselves, or work on and radiate, because there's so many people out there. I mean, right now, like you said, you are a miracle. As it is, 1 in 600 million people. I found you. Someone else is going to find you, and someone else is going to find their special someone else, right?
Yes.
So thank you so much, Sabin. I really, really enjoyed this. And if you guys have any questions at all on this conversation, Sabin's email is below, or his contact will be below, is below. And there's my contact too. You guys know where to find me. Want to say where to find you, or?
Yeah. I would love to. So you guys, anyone who's watching, you can follow me. So on Instagram, it's Karma Quads right now. It's going to change to King Karma, which is going to be my brand name. So just look up Karma Quads for now. And if you're watching this a little bit later, you can just look up Sabin Karma or Karma Quads. I make a lot of videos on Facebook as well. So you can look me up, Sabin Karma, there. And you can find me on the Karma Quads YouTube channel, which I will be picking back up very shortly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.